We tackle the root problems and systematic inequality with tobacco use, smoking, and so on. This is a point that only we can take as our government. I cannot claim any of our claims because they don't have any efficient model to claim any benefits of targeting addiction. We are the comparative that protects people under severe addiction and also protect the poor of our status quo. Proud to propose. To later to my speech, for some quick and easy setup where I deal with framing the toxic status quo that they support, and secondly on my model. Then I just move on to our substantives. On framing, status quo looks like individuals burdening the government and their responsibilities that led to the disease of their illness. For example, individuals that got heart cancer because they consistently expose themselves to smoking will try and push the burden of their own responsibility to the government. It was clearly there to restrain themselves from smoking, which they evidently failed to do. On a model, individuals will pay a certain portion depending on the cost of your own treatment. This varies on your financial situation too. That is to say, if you're dirt poor, you'll pay less for a treatment, but it knows it's very heavy deterrents. On the flip side, if you're rich, then we will make you pay a higher amount of money since the perception of money varies for everyone. Second, on a comparative, instead of just letting people pay hefty fines, we also give a tenant rehab towards people who pay fines. This is like offering rehab plans towards smokers and drug addicts when their addictions arbitrarily leads to their hospital bills steadily rising. On burden pushes, our burden is to prove that individuals, regardless of social background, paying a portion of their own treatment is an effective way to deter people of addictions. Something that only we can do because we have people managing their own body without being reliant on the government for everything. And secondly, we already have told you that we're getting deterred since as a person you don't want to pay for your own medical bills because you already have healthcare special report. Their burden is to prove why not paying a portion of your medical bills. It's a notion that is more harm than good. On the first substantive on individual responsibility, the key assumption of this argument is that a functioning human being should take responsibility and care of their own body. The mechanization for this is threefold. A. Individuals should be held accountable monetarily when they make bad lifestyle choices that deteriorate their own health. Individuals should be held liable for the choices that they have made and the consequences it has upon. B. The government has a duty to provide healthcare for healthy citizens in some countries. However, if this harm was entirely on the citizens or individuals' choices, the government should not be mandated to afford its individuals instead. C. Citizens are much more conscious on our side of the house as now they don't have the burden to pay. As now they now have the burden to pay for their own actions. Individuals on their comparative don't have the incentive to take care of their own body and addiction since they expect the government to handle everything. This should lead to more addiction in the long term since people don't have incentives to stop on their side. The impact here is that the impact of this argument are principally it shows how your body is responsibility is a responsibility of yourself, and thus your actions matter and lead to consequences. On weighing, even in their best case, moving on to my second substantive on preemptive measures. The premise here is that the premise of this argument is that the majority of citizens make bad lifestyle choices because they do not have the monetary responsibility for these actions. The mechanization for this is that when individuals are expected to compensate for their own lifestyle choices, individuals can become conscious about the real life consequences they have to be responsible for. Hence, they cannot easily make bad lifestyle choices on our comparative, right? The flip side of our comparative is that since people are paying for their own medical bills, and it's a portion that's enough to serve as a good deterrent, this means that at the end of the day, people have more incentives to quit smoking, quit using tobacco, and whatnot, especially if you're poor, because as a functioning member of society, you got bills to pay, you also got ends to meet, for example, beating a friend, for example, let's say like it's a paying rent, right? That would be hard because of your poor lifestyle choices on our comparative, which means that people are deterrents because they want to meet those ends, right? The impact then is that individuals now have the burden to pay for their own bills and therefore will be less motivated and incentivized to destroy their health for short-term pleasure. We have deterrents on our comparative. This is a mutually exclusive pain, a point so proud to propose.
Picture this: a world where countries with free healthcare, those who have poor lifestyle choices have to pay for parts of their healthcare. People's freedom of choice are violated as they're not allowed to do what they want, even if it isn't healthy. This is the nightmare that opposition are proposing. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm the first speaker of the negative team. Our counter model in this debate is implementing a system to charge individuals based on their lifestyle choices, which would require significant administrative efforts and costs, potentially diverting funds from actual healthcare systems. For example, assessing and monitoring individual behaviors would necessitate a bureaucratic infrastructure, including tracking system verification processes and appeal procedures, all of which are costly and inefficient, which could also violate the citizens' privacy. Instead of penalizing individuals, governments should focus on preventive measures and education to encourage healthier lifestyles. For example, public health campaigns such as anti-smoking ads and programs promoting physical activity have proven effective in reducing harmful behaviors. For instance, Australia's anti-smoking campaigns have been significantly decreased smoking rates over the years. Therefore, accountable for taste to provide everyone with a free healthcare no matter what. There will be also educational banners and campaigns around these stores and the streets to educate these people. In this debate, I'll be arguing how, firstly, it disobeys the universal healthcare principles and the complexity of life choice is far too difficult to understand. And our second speaker will be arguing how there's potential for discrimination and potential health impacts. Before I start my substantive, I'd like to point out some gaping flaws in the opposition team's case. They said it's their own fault if they do smoking or something, and they should be held liable as it's their responsibility because they made themselves get that illness. But we say we agree with this statement in some cases, but in most cases, it isn't in their hands. Maybe because of peer pressure or some other matter out of hand. And furthermore, these people should be able to get this treatment for free because it's one of the universal laws of healthcare that you should be able to get healthcare. Now, I'd like to start my substantive. Firstly, it is disobeying universal healthcare principles. Universal healthcare is founded on the principle of providing care to all individuals, regardless of their lifestyles. For example, the National Health Service in UK provides free healthcare to all residents, ensuring equitable access regardless of socio-economic status or personal habits. This principle promotes social solidarity and the notion that healthcare is a basic human right. Penalizing individuals for their lifestyle choices raises ethical concerns about personal freedom and autonomy. People have the right to make their own choices, even if it's not always healthy. Ethical frameworks such as those proposed by philosophers such as John Mill, arguing for individual autonomy and against paternalistic intervention by the state as long as one's action does not harm others. Furthermore, the complexity of life choice is far too difficult to understand. Determining what constitutes a poor lifestyle choice is complex and subjective. People may eject in such behaviors due to various factors beyond their control, such as socio-economic conditions, education, and mental health. This means that instead of doing something that they know might be bad for them, they take it because of matters out of their hand. For example, many individuals who smoke or consume alcohol come from lower economic backgrounds where stress, lack of education, limited access to healthier alternatives, things like caffeine, contribute to these choices. Penalizing them for their circumstances can exacerbate existing inequalities. This is just unfair. If this isn't enough to convince you, we win based on the metric of vulnerability. As I said, these people typically come from lower socioeconomic households where charging them for their healthcare can be a huge detriment to their financially. To conclude, we strongly believe that in countries with free healthcare, people who make poor lifestyle choices should not be charged for healthcare because of the universal healthcare principles and complexity of lifestyle choices. Thus, I'm proud to negate.
When opposition comes to the podium to claim that individual autonomy is the most important concept in today's debate, they automatically lose the debate because rights are fundamental to society, but they are not absolute. That is to say, if your rights are harming you directly, and we need to put proactive measures, and that's why we ban certain things. Sure, we don't ban smoking, but we at least address the severity of it and put deterrents on smoking or other harmful practices in order to discourage people from doing these, right? Addressing the severity of this, right? If causing a third party or irreversible harm deserves to be partial, and this right to individual autonomy causes daunting dent in your health, meaning it's worth restricting to such extent. Another point coming from their side on how people should be able to get treatment for free because it's a universal health law. It's not universally applied when someone, based on their own self-accord, make really bad health choices. This is a choice that the government shouldn't be held accountable for. Why should the government take action when it's a completely individual-based choice? Another point coming from their side on how we can create anti-smoking campaigns or ads. These are things that happen in status quo, meaning on their comparative, they don't know when to stop because there's no point or deterrence factor, meaning as they literally make it so that the government provides everything for them, these individuals are expected to be held accountable for the bad lifestyle choices they make, meaning that these campaigns would be essentially useless to them when they realize that the government can be held accountable for all the actions they make. Another claim coming from their side on how there are other factors such as caffeine that could cause this. These other factors are also another individual choice they make, most likely with the awareness that these factors could also worsen their health. They probably have the understanding that over-consuming caffeine is also a very bad lifestyle choice, meaning when they do choose to do this, they should also be aware of the consequences that come along, because they should be aware of this. Our point on equitable contribution, which is our team's third and final argument. The clear assumption we take here is that equitable contribution is extremely key when we are actually talking about healthcare. The main line of logic we employ here on mechanization is that individuals who make healthier choices may feel like it's unfair to pay the same amount as those who engage in high-risk behaviors, because they're talking about healthcare universally, meaning that on their side, charging based on lifestyle choices can be seen as a fair system where people contribute based on their health risk. When they're paying the same amount of money, which is essentially zero, or even in countries where they do pay the same amount, it's essentially unfair for people who decide to make healthier life choices, because people who are still making bad lifestyle choices are not still held accountable by the government monetarily. This means that monetary compensation for the government does not exist on their comparative. But individuals who make good lifestyle choices are rewarded in a way where they do not have to be held accountable for others' bad lifestyle choices they make. In addition to that point, we clarify in our model that we recognize not all individuals should have the same access to healthy lifestyle options due to socioeconomic factors, meaning the policy should already be designed to mitigate these inequities, meaning that through subsidies or additional support for low-income individuals, we already target that point. Before moving on to my next point, any POIs? 3, 2, 1. Directly moving on to my next point on how this is also targeted support, because when equitable contribution emphasizes personal responsibility, it can also be designed to address the disparities that happen, because the disparity that happens here is quite clear on their side when people who make healthy lifestyle choices, such as eating vegetables or actually pay extra money in order to acquire things that help them make good lifestyle choices, when they make these certain types of choices and purchases, but then they have to pay the same amount of money or no money at all, that equalizes themselves on the same level with people who make bad lifestyle choices, and makes their efforts and attempts to actually make the same make good lifestyle choices essentially meaningless, because they still have to pay no money, but so do people with bad lifestyle choices. So what does this look like on their comparative? We see a world where healthy people do not have to pay for others. The others who make healthy lifestyle choices have to take responsibility for those who do not. In our world, only those who make strictly bad lifestyle choices are held accountable. This means that people who smoke, drink regularly are held accountable, while those who actually spend money, time, or devote their personal resources into actually making good lifestyle choices are actually compensated monetarily by not being mandated to pay. This is a huge benefit that is exclusive to our site, but not only that, it brings long-term benefits. Why is it exclusive in the long term? Because in the long run, not only is there a deterrence factor, healthy people who make good lifestyle choices are rewarded and compensated, meaning that their health is also protected on the other hand. So for these reasons, so proud to propose.
In the opposition's world, there are several people with bad habits who are not being tended to because of the additional cost of healthcare, persuading them not to use healthcare. There's also a potential for discrimination between households. Before I move on to my first substantive, I'd like to present my rebuttal. The opposition has stated that it is the responsibility of yourself and your actions lead to consequences. They may deserve consequences, but healthcare is still important, and no matter what they have done, they shouldn't be forced to pay for healthcare which they might not even be able to afford. This pushes them to not check up with doctors, leading to an early death, which could have been avoided if healthcare was kept free for households who were poor. They've also stated that we are able to put barriers on things like smoking. Although you may stop people from smoking, on the affirmative side, there are many people who aren't able to afford healthcare that costs money, which just makes their smoking condition worse and increases the chances of their habit turning into cancer. They've also stated that it is not a universal right if someone on their own accord makes bad health choices. However, everyone deserves healthcare, and they deserve it even more if they make bad health choices. Yet again, if we do not put a barrier on healthcare, then everyone has access to it, decreasing the chances of them getting sick and increasing the chances of them getting better through consulting a doctor when they realize what they've been doing is wrong. The plus side is, however, forcing people who make bad choices to pay money towards healthcare, which can put a mental strain on them to be able to afford the healthcare. I would now like to move on to my first substantive, that charging individuals based on lifestyle choices could lead to discrimination and stigmatization, disproportionately affecting marginalized groups. Marginalized communities, such as those with lower incomes or minority backgrounds, are more likely to be targeted and unfairly penalized, leading to further social exclusion and health disparities. This is unfair for individuals, as some lifestyle choices are not made with full control. Despite them knowing what the consequences and what their actions are, there are certain periods in a person's life when they feel down and just need to, for example, smoke. There could also be other pressures like friends of bad family background, both of which they cannot change. Being discriminated against for choices that aren't always completely yours could cause major mental health problems, place a mental strain on them, and increase the risks of serious diseases. That is why we should give everyone free healthcare no matter what, as it causes discrimination and mental strains. I would now like to move on to my second substantive, that fear of additional costs might deter individuals from seeking necessary medical care, leading to worse health outcomes and higher long-term costs for the healthcare system. For example, in the United States, where healthcare is often costly, individuals sometimes avoid seeking medical care for preventable conditions due to financial concerns, resulting in more severe health issues that are costlier to treat.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
We clearly outlined in our model that the government would help through direct assistance or subsidies to depending on each individual's respective financial situation. Any responses?
Can you specify?
We already tell you in our model that we will work towards governments depending on each respective financial situation, providing direct monetary assistance.
Wait, sorry, I didn't really catch that. It was kind of glitchy.
Big time.
Well, I'm going to move on. They will most likely try to deter themselves from healthcare to save money, meanwhile damaging their lungs and putting themselves at a larger risk of death. This is not what we want individuals to do at the moment, as instead we are just making them more prone to poor lifestyle choices rather than fixing the core issue. Poor lifestyle choices can involve spending large amounts of money, so by making them pay, it robs them of more of their money, making them even more poor and unable to live on for longer. This throws away the entire purpose of having free healthcare in the first place. Free healthcare is meant so that people don't have financial strains trying to afford healthcare. It can also place a mental strain on them, forcing them to balance more jobs. In conclusion, we should not make people who make poor lifestyle choices have to pay for part of the cost of their healthcare, as it can convince them to make even more poor decisions and can deter them from getting the attention that they need. Therefore, I am proud to negate.
Side opposition. Our world is not a society where we lock people in a room and demand them of paying money. Rather, it is a society where individuals respect on the actions they have made and actually have the consequences for it. So proud to propose. Move on to some rebuttals. First of all, on that healthcare is important and they cannot afford it, right? Yeah, so that's why we're providing a portion of the money itself of the government, right? We clearly outlined this in the model that depending on their respective financial situation, the government could help through direct assistance or subsidies, and they can actually essentially ignore our entire model and no response to our POI either. But also on the point about discrimination and stigmatization, right? Not only is this a mutual harm on both sides, where on the opposition side, people will receive social backlash as well. It is reduced on the government side, where people understand these people are held accountable monetarily. But also, move on to some clarifications. What does their side actually look like, right? Their side looks like a society where individuals will be consistently draining out unnecessary money from the government, making it so that their lifestyle is ruined and their health is also ruined, and there's no improvement at all. What does our side look like then, right? Our side gives the burden of their lives being ruined and the choices of these individuals to the individuals themselves, so that they would know the effect that their lives has on the actions they have made and the consequences itself. Furthermore, they will be able to reflect and rehabilitate themselves from the crisis they have been engaged in, meaning to say that they will be able to have rehabilitation by the hospital, but also would need to reflect on their acts by paying a portion of the fee itself. Also, individuals on their comparative can't rehabilitate because they don't know the root problem and the root cause of their addiction, because they're not conscious yet, right? On our comparative, because of deterrence, you're more aware of your situation and the reason as to why you had addiction in the first place, and you're conscious of that, meaning to say that we have better rehabilitation in the first place because people know the purpose as to why they are getting rehabilitated. But moving on to first clash about which side promotes public health, right? First, characterization differences. Their side looks like a society where individuals are sacrificing public health for their autonomy. Yes, we believe that bodily autonomy is important in some cases. However, we believe that having consequences and passing it to the government for them to save themselves is not justified at all. Second, mechanism feasibility. On our side of the house, individuals will be able to have quality services even if they are addicted to these, or even if they were addicted to these types of unhealthy life choices, because of two main reasons. First of all, citizens pay for their own fee and take responsibility on their own hands. The government will be able to make 100% of their power to provide healthcare services rather than only providing 50% for every individual and making them not pay any money at all. But also, citizens are more conscious on our side of the house as they know that they have the burden to pay for their actions if they make any kind of consequences or if they make these actions in the first place and if they make these choices in the first place. Impact here is that our side is able to promote public health and help the society overall and reach our goal, which is promoting public health itself. But moving on, second question about which side's government uses money effectively in terms of healthcare, right? First, characterization differences. Their side looks like a society where individuals and government waste tons and tons of money for the problems of themselves and the problems that they cause themselves. Therefore, the government would not be able to use their money efficiently and effectively for individuals that actually need that money, right? Second, mechanism feasibility. What happens on our side of the house? The government will be able to make effective choices and with how they use their money and how they actually use and utilize their money that they have or the budget that they have, and as they can help individuals that actually need the money and had no incentive to lead themselves into a bad outcome, unlike the individuals who are doing smoking or drugs and stuff like that, or alcohol, which led to them to have a bad outcome in the first place, right? They also continuously ignored our model itself. If they can't listen, let me repeat, right? Individuals will pay a certain portion depending on the cost of the treatment itself. This varies based on your financial situation also. We have already clarified that. We don't know why they keep on bringing this point up about how individuals won't be able to access financial or access healthcare because of financial situations. Impact here is that the impact of this argument is that we will make it so that they have effective decisions for how they want to use their money for the government, and thus help more individuals in the long term and help more individuals that are need in the help and are there for healthcare services. So proud to propose.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, the opposition came out and tried to push to us that not everyone deserves healthcare because of their lifestyle choices. However, we believe that everyone deserves free healthcare no matter what. It's the government's responsibility to keep all of its citizens safe and healthy. Having free healthcare is something that people should be able to have access to no matter what choices they make. As my team's other speaker have said it before, the choices might not always be the right or complete choices of the person. There could be like other pressures or when they're feeling very low, or like family background issues. Before I move on to this in further detail, I'll first like to say it has split into two themes. The first is whether everyone deserves free healthcare and to be healthy, and the second theme is how much healthcare should be paid for the individual. So under my first theme, they have stated that financial penalties can serve as a deterrent and encourage people to adopt healthier life choices. So first I'll talk about the effectiveness of the penalty. There's limited evidence that financial penalties effectively change behaviors. Supportive measures such as education and access to healthy options are more likely to result in sustained behavior and change. There are mainly two types of people who have poor lifestyle choices like smoking or drinking. Those who are addicted and those that don't change easily, and those who are just trying it like at the start, like because of many reasons. With addicted people, obviously cannot fully reverse every single addicted person to be healthy again, but we're putting up educational campaigns whilst the app isn't doing anything to stop them. People who are just starting will also see terrible effects of having these bad lifestyle choices. The app's model might work for these people. Yes?
What specific example do you have that supports your claim about how your side's campaigns will work in status quo?
So our campaigns might not work for every single person who's addicted, but at least it's an option that people can look at, and if they actually realize that it's very bad, they have a second chance, like on our side, because we're paying it for free. They don't have to worry about the financial burden, and they have like a second choice to live rightfully again. However, on your side, you're not giving anything to help these addicted people, and that means that these addicted people don't have anything to like lean against, because they have to pay for their own health care, and that's like a big financial burden for them if they're addicted. So now to continue on, therefore we have a better solution to these people. And when some people realize that they have done the wrong thing, they have a second chance. Even if they didn't stop, there's still the individual's choice, and they have been educated. As is explained over and over, it sometimes it isn't the own person's choice. There are many other people and pressures and backgrounds that could affect this person's choice. There could also be resistance and resentment. So, for example, penalizing individuals can lead to resistance and resentment, making them less likely to engage in healthcare providers and public health initiatives. This will lower the chances of individuals being healthy and safe in the community. Offering positive incentives such as free healthcare insurances and like for example, like gym memberships and non-smokers or something, can be more effective in promoting healthy behavior.
They've also stated under this theme that people should be responsible for their own actions. If they choose to engage in behaviors known to be harmful, such as smoking or excessive drinking, they should bear some financial burden for the consequences of those choices. However, there are complex lifestyle choices that are influenced by variety of factors, including social and academic status, education, mental health. It's not always a simple matter of personal responsibility. On equality and fairness, penalizing individuals for their lifestyle choices can disproportionately affect those from disadvantaged backgrounds and existing health inequalities. Instead of punitive measurements, the government should focus on providing support and education to help the people make healthier life choices. That's what we're supporting. Now to my next theme of how much healthcare should be paid. Healthcare could be reduced. So they have said that healthcare can be reduced a bit because individuals are paying a bit themselves. However, investing in preventive measures and public health campaigns can be more effective in reducing healthcare costs without penalizing individuals. It's also stated that the government will pay a portion of these healthcare prices, around 50% for the people in need, like stated in their model. However, why should they pay a bit? Because that still really puts pressure on the people financially. Until the government gives free healthcare, like on our side of the house, which proved to have many benefits and moral rules, people will always have financial strain, which proves that people will always avoid the healthcare to avoid paying this money, which gives them a higher chance of not being as healthy as they can. So for all those reasons and rebuttals, I'm proud to.
In the opposition's world, they support a place where in countries where healthcare is free, that the people who make poor lifestyle choices have to pay for their healthcare. People who universally deserve to receive this fundamental healthcare, violating universal health laws, detrimenting lower socioeconomic households who don't have any other alternative than like smoking or doing something similar. They have to, and they get punished and for violating rights. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'll be delivering the reply speech for the negative team in this debate. I'll be going through some themes in this debate and weigh why we come out on top. Now, I'd like to start my thematic rebuttal. In this debate, we see controversy on whether people who make poor lifestyle choices deserve to receive this healthcare. The opposition have stressed how these people should be kept accountable for their actions, as what they've decided to do got them into that situation, so they deserve to pay. On the other hand, our team has constantly reiterated that the healthcare should be an option available no matter the circumstances, and it's a universal principle. We believe we take this theme as the opposition failed to realize that it's just essential that people have access to free healthcare. Even when all the benefits listed on the opposition team is true in their case, this fundamental law still trumps them. The law is important as people deserve to have this free healthcare, no matter what race, gender, or socioeconomic background they come from. And the healthcare the healthcare system has just as much responsibility helping these people as the opposition try to convince you about their responsibility to resolve their own actions from smoking or something similar. We win firstly on the metric of vulnerability. We believe we win because we can prove that this model would detrimentally impact financially strained individuals. The opposition have pressed that the model states that the government would give them the money, balance it out. But this just removes the money from the government to actually improve the quality of life in healthcare, detrimenting them all. One thing the opposition have never made very clear is how to implement a system to monitor and change individuals based on their lifestyle choices. This could be costly and complex, potentially offsetting any savings. To specify, the opposition never said what lifestyle choices would be covered and which aren't, making some arguments useless. To conclude, we strongly believe that we should not force those who make poor lifestyle choices to pay for healthcare in countries with free healthcare, because we can prove that the healthcare is a fundamental necessity and all people deserve it, something the government team failed to see. Thus, I'm proud to negate.
Opposition side squirrels the debate like we don't want people to receive healthcare. Not everyone deserves it. No, we will actually make it affordable by ensuring a portion will be covered by the government. Following with an extreme lack of engagement, their case is so wishy-washy to a point where they can't actually keep track of their own case, because it seems like every single news speaker, they bring up a whole new model and counterfactual. Directly moving on to reasons why government wins opposition. Targeting 4 main points on opposition side. They talk about how healthcare would be unaffordable on our side, but we clearly outlined this in our model that we actually have some sort of way as a preventive measure to combat this. We on their point on individual autonomy on their first constructive, we tell you this right isn't absolute when their own health is getting harmed, following to no response on our counter-rebutting. But also on the point on discrimination, we also tell you this is a mutual harm, no response to follow again. But this is a mutual harm because think about it this way, honorable adjudicator, the stigmatization follows on both sides, because Honorable educator, the fact that individuals used a drug or made bad lifestyle choices doesn't change on either side, but it's lessened on our side when the public and the society is aware and conscious of the fact that these individuals will pay monetary compensation to the government and pay and repay for their actions. It's way better on government side when we actually let the public know and the public has a awareness and consciousness that these individuals will actually have some sort of compensation. On their point on this, on educational campaigns, let's look at both comparative. The best side of their side are people continuously making bad lifestyle choices without the actual knowledge that they are causing immense harm to their health. This also leads to minimal benefit of individuals having somewhat absolute individual autonomy. But honorable educator, what do we say to this? Rights are fundamental to society, but they are not absolute. That is to say, if your rights are harming you, we need to put proactive measures. And for instance, this is why we ban drugs. Sure, we don't ban smoking, but we at least address the severity of it. But educational campaigns are simply not enough. People can choose to simply ignore them or not listen to them, but it's comparatively different when there are actual measures posed legally where people are actually aware that there's a deterrence factor and they will actually have to monetarily compensate in cases like this. For these reasons, so proud to propose.